Our next challenge involves making a Guess the Celebrity app, for which we're going to need to download the names and images of a bunch of celebrities. Now, I found this website, push24.com/celebrities, which gives a list of apparently the top 100 celebrities. I'm not sure how they're ranked, but there they are. So that will be a very useful list for us, for our app. Now, what we'll need to do is look at the code of this page, which we can do, as we've seen before, by control clicking or right clicking and clicking view page source. Make sure you click on that white bit there, and then you can see the familiar-ish HTML of the page. And if we look here, you can see this is the Nicki Minaj section, and we've got the source image there. So we're going to need that, and we're going to need the name, which we can get either from there or from the alt tag of the image itself. So we're going to need to be able to extract those two bits of information for each person in the list. So there's the next person, there's the next one, etc. So to be able to do that, we're going to need to be able to manipulate strings in a rather more advanced way than we're currently capable of. So let's just see how we do that. And again, this is Java rather than anything Android specific, so it's a little bit easier if we work in browxy.com. So click try to get the Hello World project, and then just start, just to make sure everything's looking good. All right. So the first thing we're going to need to do is to split the single big string into lots of smaller strings. So like this one, and that one. And fortunately, there's a method in Java that does that for us, which is called split. So let's quickly see how we use it. Let's create a string, which I'll call myString, which I will have a bunch of strings. So let's have names, and we'll separate those names by the letter X. Names that you're probably fed up of having shoved down your throat for the moment, but there we go. You can obviously choose your own names. So for some reason, I seem to have a string with a bunch of X's in and names separated by those X's. So if I wanted to separate that into an array which contained each of the names, then what I could do is create an array of strings like that, and I'll call it split string. And then I'm going to take my string and split it by the letter X. So what that does is hopefully fairly straightforward. It takes my string and then it splits it into an array by the letter X. Then we just need to display that in the logs. So we'll use system.out.println. And then again, we're going to need to convert our array to a string. So we'll use arrays.toString, and we want to convert split string. And to do that, we'll need to import java.util.arrays. Okay, let's take a look. There we go. So we've got Rob, Kirsten, Tommy, and Ralphie as an array. Now, there's a slight problem here. Before I tell you what that problem is, let's see if you can work out why we've got this kind of weird spacing issue here and what we could do here to solve it. Go for it. Did you figure it out? The problem is, of course, that between Rob and Kirsten is not just an X, but there's a space as well. So it's Rob space X space Kirsten. So simple fix would be to, instead of just splitting it by X, split it by space X and then space. And then you can see we just get the names in an array like that. All right, quick challenge for you there. Let's get rid of that. Can you create a string which is equal to the name Mississippi and then split it according to the letter S? And before you do it, try and write down what the result is going to be. So try and create a string which is equal to Mississippi and split it according to the letter S. And before you do it, try and anticipate what the result is going to be. Good luck. All right. I'm going to create a string. I'll call it river. The big challenge here, of course, was spelling Mississippi correctly. I did have to look it up, I have to admit. But there we go. And then we'll create our array. I'll call it split river. And we're going to take river and we're going to split it by the letter S. There we go. And then system.out.println and then arrays dot toString split river. And let's have a look. Hopefully it will be what you guessed. So a slightly strange array. So obviously before the first S, we've got just MI, which goes there. And then between the first and second S, there's nothing. So we've got an empty portion of our array there. Then between the next two S's, we've got an I, which is there. Then between those two S's, we've got nothing again. And then after the final S, we've got IPPI. So that's why we get that strange array there. Hopefully that's what you guessed. Okay, so that's the first part. I'm just going to comment that out for now. So now we can now split strings by another string. Next thing we're going to need to do is to get a portion of a string. So we're going to need, as I mentioned, that bit of the string and also that bit. So let's see how we do that. Let's start by creating a string again. And actually, I think I'm going to use Mississippi again. Mostly because I just like saying it. So if we want to return a part of that string, we might call it river part, then we can take our river and get a substring of it. And for example, we could do something like substring 2, 5. And let's just have a look and see what that gives us. We don't need to convert this time, we can just do it directly because it's a string. So that gives us SSI. So what's going on there is that this is returning, if we think of these letters as being 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., then the 0th letter is M and number 1 is I, so it starts with number 2, which is that first S, and then it keeps going until the one before the last letter. So we've got 2, 3 and then 4, but not including 5. So quick challenge then. Can you change the numbers so that instead of getting SSI, we get ISSI, so that middle portion there. Go for it. Hope you managed that. So this would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So our first number is 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we want to go up to, but not including 8. Let's just check that. Should give us ISSI. There we go. So that's pretty useful in itself, but it doesn't quite solve the problem that we have because we don't necessarily know exactly which number, which character is going to be the ones that we want. So we actually want to track down a particular string of characters. So I'm going to show you a third way of working with strings, which I think is more powerful than the first two put together, but is a little bit tricky to get to grips with. It's known as regex, short for regular expressions, and is actually a cross-language way of manipulating strings. I'm just going to show you the basics of it here, but if you do a Google for Java regex, that's R-E-G-E-X, then you'll get loads of ways that you can do more advanced things with strings than what we're going to do here. So the way it works is we start off by creating a pattern. So let's actually create a string to work with first. So let's stick with Mississippi, why not? And then we normally call our pattern P, and that is a pattern, and we're going to compile a pattern from a piece of regex. Now regex is kind of a language, as I say, all on its own, but the most important thing that we're going to use it for is for finding the content between two other strings. And so let's say we want to find what's between mi and pi. So that is obviously, we know that it's that bit there. So SSI, SSIP. But if we wanted to find that for our general string, then what we would do is type mi and then the regex code for getting the string between those two, which is brackets, and then inside that's brackets, dot, star, question mark, and then pi. So what this means is find mi and find pi and then return whatever you find between the two of them. Simple as that. I'm not going to go into details of where that comes from. Again, you can look that up and find information of what the dot star question mark is actually doing, but it's pretty complicated and we don't really need all that detail of regex right now. We just need to use it to find the strings within our string. So now that we've got that pattern, we create a matcher. I'll call it M, which is our P, our pattern, and then we're going to match it against our string, so river. So our matcher just matches our pattern against our original string and sees if it can find anything. Obviously it might find something, it might find nothing, or it might find more than one thing. If we had the word Mississippi twice, then it would return two different results. So the way we deal with that is we use a while loop, and then we take our matcher and we find with it. So this will set our matcher going, so it will look for matches to our pattern in our original string river, and it will keep doing this loop as long as it finds them. And we just want to output the results of that. So we do that using system.out.println, and we take our matcher, and to get the actual result that we want, we use matcher.group and then 1. So that will return the result itself. And as before, we need to add the import for that. So that's import java.util.regex.pattern. And also we need java.util.regex.matcher. All right, let's take a look then. We run that code and you can see what it's returned is SSI, SSIP, which is everything between MI and PI. And if we had all of that twice and we ran it again, it would print it twice. So it prints it every time it finds it in our string. So that's an extremely powerful process. And as a challenge, I'm going to require you to actually use it in our code over here. So let's say we've managed to get our string and we want to extract the src here and the alt tag, so to get the name essentially. One quick thing we're going to need to do first is escape all of these double quotes, as we've seen before, Java would by default think that the double quote meant, oh, this is the end of the string, but it doesn't until the actual end of the string. We need to put a backslash in front of it to say, no, this is just part of our string, not a sign that we want to end the string. All right then, so your challenge, preferably not you looking at this code, but use it if you need to, is to extract the 2 bits of information that we need. So that is the URL there and the name, Caitlin Jenner. Good luck. All right, hope that went well. That was a pretty tough challenge. I'm actually going to do it by just renaming that first of all, because it's not really a river. So let's start off by getting our SRC, our source URL, and we'll do this by creating a pattern P. And we're going to compile a pattern. And what we're interested in, I'm going to have the start of our code is src equals and then backslash double quotes again. And then we have the parentheses with dot star question mark in them. And then we want to have everything up to the next double quotes. And then we end the string with some actual double quotes. And then that's our pattern, or what we're going to use to compile our pattern with. So that's the bit that we're looking for before the bit that we're interested in. And then we want everything up to the next double quotes within the string. Okay, so that's the tricky bit. The rest of it is exactly the same as before. So matcher m is equal to p.matcher HTML. And then while m.find and we want system.out.println m.group1. All right, fingers crossed. Okay, now we've got an interesting error there, so I thought I'd leave that one in because you may well have seen something like that. If you copied all of that in, what actually happens there is this line break breaks our code because Java thinks we want to go on to a new instruction. So what I'll do for now is just remove all the line breaks in that string. So it becomes just a single long string. And then our code is more or less unchanged by that, and we'll see how we're actually going to deal with that in the app itself later on. And there we go. You can see that now without those errors, we've got the URL that we need. Fantastic. So that's the URL. I'm going to actually just copy and paste because my code next time is going to be pretty similar, except we're not going to create P and M this time because they're already created. So now all we need to do is work out what we need to get Caitlin Jenner. And I think we'll use the alt equals and then the escaped quotes there as our setup. So the string before the bit that we're interested in and the bit after is actually the same as before. So those double quotes once again. So that, with any luck, should get us the code that we need. Fantastic. So there's the URL and there's the name. So that is actually all we need to get all the data that we're interested in for our app. Guess the celebrity. So now we're ready to go, and let's make it in the next lecture.